Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Cardinal Stadium on the campus of Catholic University in Washington, D.C. for tonight's Week 2 matchup between the Philadelphia Spinners and the D.C. Current. I'm Jeff Poster, joined alongside by Dusty Rhodes for the call of tonight's game. The Spinners and the Current both coming in at 1-0. Technically, they're tied for first. We got the Spinners listed in first, D.C. in second, but the D.C. Current, the defending national MLU champions of a season ago, Dusty, and both teams looking to stay perfect and unbeaten and really take an early foothold here in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I think it looks like the point differential is the thing that's separating the Spinners and the Current right now after their first week. The weather we've got today is looking like we're not going to have too much wind, maybe a little bit of rain coming down as we go, and it should be not too much of an impediment for the players during the course of play. 56
degrees is our game time temperature right here at Cardinal Stadium. A little bit of rain and about 5 miles per hour on the wind. So we'll take a quick break, a step away, and when we come back, we'll take a look at the two teams.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Cardinal Stadium at Catholic University. Jeff Poster alongside Dusty Rhodes. Philadelphia Spinners in town. Let's take a look at the Spinners and our player to watch here, Jake Rainwater, number 27, offensive cutter. Dusty, what can we expect out of Jake tonight?
Well, based on last weekend, not only did we see that he was responsible for 8 goals and assists combined, he was 40 for 40 on all of his passes, and Philadelphia converted 90% of the points that he played. This guy's a two-way threat, and he should be the primary cutter for most of the Philadelphia's offensive possessions.
Well, Jake, he's a big target, but then on the other side of the disc, DC's own Alan Kolek, last year's MVP. He led the league in assists. Alan Kolek, always a threat. And what can we expect to see out of him tonight?
Well, as you can see from his stats here, the 8 assists that he distributed against Boston, that's sort of his calling card as a player. He's consistently able to manipulate not only the mark who's covering him immediately as a thrower, he manipulates the entire defense and moves around and makes space for his teammates just by where he puts his throws and the way he aggressively attacks upfield after he releases them.
Well, it's not just those two guys. This is a team game, so there are going to be some keys to the game. Let's start with the Spinners on the road. What do they have to do to keep winning and stay undefeated?
Well, in their last 7, going back to last year, they're 5-2, and to this point, DC is the only team in the Eastern Conference that they didn't beat last year, going 0-4 against them. And one of the issues with that is that DC has constantly dominated the fourth quarter against just about every team in the league. One of the players that we can look to see from that is Rainwater being their primary option. And if he has a strong game, that'll sort of control the tempo for Philadelphia's offense.
Let's take a look at the other side, DC. They've been perfect here at the Catholic University, the dojo they like to call it. What do they need to do to stay perfect?
Well, not just if they've been perfect here at Cardinal Stadium. They haven't lost a game at home since June 1st, 2013. This crowd here, while they may be a little damped down by the rain, should, as they always do, bring the intensity of the game, bring a little more out of the players on the field. And so long as their D stays strong and Peter Pryl is their go-to guy on offense downfield with Kolek, they'll be set.
Well, it should be a fun one. One of these teams is going home with a loss, but we're going to step away again here. When we come back, Philly and DC.
kind, my dear. Such a good find is clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Welcome back to Cardinals Stadium as the two teams line up on the field. Let's take a look at the starting lineups for both teams. First, for the O-line of the Philadelphia Spinners, you see Trey Katzenbach highlighted there. He'll be joined by number 7, Nick Hiernett, number 27, the aforementioned Jake Rainwater, number 5, Himalaya Mehta, number 18, an impressive first week showing last week, Billy Sickles, the rookie, number 33, Marshall Ward, and number 14, Matt Glazer. He also had a good game against Boston. On the defensive side, it'll be number 31, Patrick Lindsley, number 11, Matt Esser, and number 3, you see right there, Gabe Colton, number 20, Dave Baer, number 6, Leon Chow, who was kind of a questionable decision with a bruised heel, but it was out there. Number 9, Patrick Davini, and number 10, Jack Casey will round out the Philadelphia defense. And then on the other side will be the O-line of the DC Current, led by number 99, Alan Kolick, number 90, Markham Schaffner, number 88, Calvin Ong, number 8, and right there on your screen, Peter Pryl, number 45, Jeff Wodach, number 84, Chuck Cantone, and Lloyd Blake, number 14, for the offense. Defensively, the Current, number 7, that's Ryan Nam you see on your screen, number 11, Jonathan Neely, number 24, who had the Sports Center highlight play of the week, Ben Fleming, number 4, the hero from last week, Delrico Johnson, number 5, David Cranston, number 22, Brian Marshall, and to finish it off will be Nate Castine, number 15, for the DC Current. In their black uniforms with the silver trim, the Philadelphia Spinners in their blue tops and red bottoms. And we'll step away once again, but when we come back, we should be getting ready for game time action here at Cardinal Stadium.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find is clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Welcome back to Cardinal Stadium as we get set for game time here. The Philadelphia Spinners, the DC Current, as we said, both 1-0, both victories over Boston. Philly with a 20-22 win over the Whitecaps last week, and then on Sunday, DC followed up with a 19-18 thrilling double overtime win. And what can we expect, really? Do you think it'll be something similar to the Philly game or the DC game?
Well, we can only be so lucky to see something like we did last time we were here down at Cardinal Stadium. That was a fantastic match from beginning to end. However, the DC Current have generally owned the Spinners when they come down here. It's like the Spinners don't really know how to deal with the pressure that the DCD puts in against their offense.
Well, the MLU would like to thank Innova. Innova is a proud to support Major League Ultimate and its incredible athletes as the official disc of the MLU. The Innova Pulsar has quickly become the disc of choice at Ultimate's highest level. Visit innovadiscs.com to find a dealer near you. Friction Gloves. Wear the same Ultimate gloves as the pros. Friction Gloves helps your throws and catches in all conditions. To find out more information and get a pair, visit frictiongloves.com. We'll step away once again. Game time coming up here at Cardinal Stadium. Welcome back to Cardinal Stadium at Catholic University. Disc flip going on at midfield, but right now we do have DC's own Seth Wiggins is getting set up here down on the sideline before the game gets going as we see the midfield flip going on to determine possession. Alan Kolick with a fun, very American umbrella out there, but let's see what's going on with Seth Wiggins.
Hi, Seth. How you doing today?
Doing well.
Excellent. First of all, what can we look for from the DCD today? What are you guys trying to attack on the Philadelphia offense?
Well, the coaches have identified a few weaknesses in their offense, we think, and we're going to try and exploit them.
You don't want to give away too many secrets right now, right?
Can't say too much.
Of course.
Had to sign an NDA before coming here.
Speaking of coming here, how's the transition been going to this new team here? How have you fit in with them?
It's been great. It's been short. This is week 3 of it, our second game. So, yeah, I'm feeling right at home. This is a great group of guys, great coaching staff. I'm really happy to be here.
That's great. That's great to hear. You've managed to join a team that has had a good season last season, and you've started off pretty well, even though it was a strong game last weekend from Boston. What can we see from the current once you guys force a turn? What's your offense going to look like on the other side?
We're trying to be a little bit more consistent. We had some trouble last week. Got ourselves into some tough situations, so we're trying to have a little bit more patience and a little bit more aggressiveness downfield with the disc, and hoping to get out of those tough spots a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and from up here, the conditions seem a little bit calmer than last week, even though there's a little bit more rain. Do you think it's going to be cleaner on the whole from both sides?
I don't know. Conditions affect both teams equally, so it'll be fun to see.
For sure. Thanks for your time.
Sure.
Good luck today, and have a great time.
Thank you.
Seth Wiggins, thanks for joining us here as we get set for first pull. Teams huddling up. Spinners and Current here at Cardinal Stadium. As we said, both teams with a 1-0 record. We'll step away, but when we come back, first pull here at Cardinal Stadium.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Cardinal Stadium at Catholic University. Jeff Poster alongside Dusty Rhodes for the MLU Live Game of the Week here. The Philadelphia Spinners making the short 2-hour drive down to Washington, D.C. to face the Current and try and, I guess you can still call it an upset. They're the reigning champs. They both have the same record now, but someone will have a different record at the end of the night.
For sure. And we're coming out here with, eventually we'll be coming out with Philadelphia on defense and DC on offense. One of the things that DC's team is dealing with is that they're missing Tom Doy, who went down with an ankle injury from last week, and they'll sort of be relying on some other downfield players to fill in the spaces that Doy has left.
A couple other guys. Dom Gibson, he had a big D for the Current last week against the Spinners. He's inactive tonight, as are Eric Salmi, Tyler Monroe, Zachary Norbum. Eric Miner was a big player in that first game, too, and has been a big player in this DC D-line. And Timothy Jackson also out. Kevin Healy, he's also out. Talking to Coach Kevin Moldenhauer before the game, he doesn't expect Healy maybe back for another 4 weeks dealing with that hamstring injury. So some bodies missing for DC tonight.
Hamstrings are rough to come back from, you know? that can linger for a while.
And we are underway as Dave Baer starts things off, pulling right to left as you see it on your screen at home. And Alan Kolick will start things up, getting the disc to Calvin Ong. And the DC Current start on offense. Ong puts it out on that far side to Pryl. Peter with a tight mark swings it back to Ong, centering the disc. Esser quickly up on the mark, gets it over to Kolick.
Kolick's been covering a lot of ground right now. He's already made 1 deep cut, which is more than we see from him in some entire games.
There's Jeff Wodach. Back to Pryl.
A lot of open space here.
That was one thing. I also talked to Coach Moldenhauer last week against Boston with all the wind. He felt that too many guys were crashing open spaces and not giving their offense enough room to work. So see if they can adjust that way. Here's Ong. Ong and Esser, that'll be a fun matchup throughout this game as Kolick takes it back on the near side. Quick cut down low. That's to Cranston.
He's usually playing on the D-line. It's interesting to see him out here on offense.
Possibly maybe filling in for Tom Doy.
Mm-hmm.
Kolek gets it back.
Defense is looking pretty good here from the Spinners. They're not giving anything for free.
Pryor looking for Kolek, and Alan Kolek opens things up here with the Current taking the early 1-0 lead with just 8:49 left to go here in the first.
Once you get into those tiny spaces, Kolek is almost impossible to cover, and with an accurately thrown pass that's away from the defense, that's an easy goal for the DC offense.
Now Kolek, he seems pretty pumped up. Take a look at this one again.
Yeah, that's easy there at the end. The defender got his head turned, couldn't get it back around to see the Frisbee.
So Pryle with the assist, and Kolek with the score makes it 1-0. DC on top here early.
And looking at their defensive line here, it looks like we'll also get to see our first look at Nate Castine coming back from a late scratch last weekend due to a stomach flu of some kind.
Yeah, Coach Moldenhauer seemed pretty happy that he was back out there. Quick look at the Philly O-line. Nick Haranet, Trey Katzenbach, Jake Rainwater had a big game against Boston as the disc is pulled.
Jake tends to have big games against just
about everybody.
Yeah, he's a beast of a matchup.
There's Haranet. Philly looking to stay in this game early. That was close right there as Maida comes up with the pass from Rainwater. Quickly gets it right back to him. Jake having to lay out just a little bit there, able to reel it in.
Yeah, he's expected to make that play, just cleaning it up a little bit.
That's Marshall Ward, dumps it back to Haranet.
Philly's offense here is getting a little spread out. They're pretty far from the thrower here.
Back to Ward, up to Maida, kind of getting stuck in this area. Quickly up to Glazer on the near side. Looking for the quick cut. Looking for Ward. This one's just going to float out of bounds.
That's a big early mistake from Philadelphia. That's not even a really good shot at working up the end zone. And if DC gets a break here at this point, that could be a very, very long night for Philadelphia.
So we'll see if DC can capitalize on their first break opportunity. That's one of their calling cards as a team, as Jonathan Neely sends a big flick. And
he just gives it right back there. That's terrible.
I don't think Katzenbach got a hand on that at all, but Rainwater will get credit for the catch D.
Oh.
Nice layout there. That's our interview, Seth Wiggins.
No, it looks like that's Cantone there. The headbands are making them a little
they
bit
throw
difficult
us
to
off.
tell apart.
So Chuck
sure.
Cantone.
And he set that block up from a ways away. Nick Haranet had to slow down on the way in toward the disc, and Cantone closed on it.
Castine floating one out to Ryan Nam. Delrico Johnson bobbling one, and it ends up hitting the ground, and Philly will take it back with Haranet.
This is not a particularly clean point.
And that's another one
Wow.
floated up a little too high. Katzenbach not able to elevate that time. And they're going to try and quickly attack right back to Cantone. And what a D there by Haranet.
At this point right now, we're seeing excellent defensive efforts from both sides, but at the same time, the offensive play for both is a little subpar. They're making execution errors as well as not cleaning their offense up well enough to work down the field well.
So Ward will start things off deep in their own territory. Swings out to Katzenbach. Back to Ward. They got Neely on him.
Very little motion downfield right now. There's about one cutter moving.
See Philly in that straight vertical stack. Haranet pushes it up to Glazer.
And DC's being quite aware. They're poaching off of the handlers here a little bit to get into the passing lanes. This could be.
Haranet taking a lot of time. Finally gets it up to Katzenbach.
That was close. Again, Philadelphia's offense is just looking particularly stagnant right now. That cut that Rainwater just made in toward the disc came from the very front of the stack. It really doesn't gain much of an advantage for the offense.
Sickles caught in that open lane, but this time goes after it on that far side. Back up to Meta.
Well, they're maintaining possession, and that's kind of the first goal of offense. But
there's another catch D.
Just as I said it.
Castine.
And that's Castine coming back and making big plays just like his entire team expects him to.
And Nam's pass a little off the mark, led too much for his man downfield, so Philly will get it back. A lot of time ticking away as we approach 5.5 left here in the first.
Yeah, he simply has to complete that pass. That's a basic level pass for players at this level.
Let's see if Philly can get some more movement from their offense. They set up in that vertical stack again. Ward starting off, and Meta maybe lost his footing, but can't come up with that.
This is just not particularly aesthetically pleasing at the moment.
Marshall swings it back to Castine. They float it over to Nam, has to leap up and make that catch, and then a quick put into the end zone as Brian Marshall reels it in from Ryan Nam.
And the amount of time that Philadelphia's offensive line spent on defense there is actually a big advantage for the DCD. That could pay dividends later as the players on Philadelphia tire out.
Brought us all the way down to 5:07. We take another look. First you see Philly not connecting. And then the quick put at the other end. Well, that's actually the Heron at D, so a little bit of everything on that point.
Yeah, this is just that back and forth. These guys are all committing to playing good defense. Their offensive game just hasn't matched it yet.
And then there's the score to Marshall right there. So DC, we said, would they be able to take advantage of their first break opportunity, but that was almost 3 minutes ago, but they finally do.
At the same time, all you need to do is get the break. It doesn't necessarily matter if you get it early or late, but get it.
Just get it.
Working all the way through that point makes a difference.
2-0, DC on top. And this time, that's Wiggins making the pull.
And it looks like Philadelphia has put out almost entirely their D-line here because after that long point, the standard Philadelphia O-line is going to be exhausted.
Fresh legs as McCullen gets it back to Bear. Bear swings it over to Colton. Quickly up to Deviney.
A little tight here, a little tight.
Well, DC using a little bit of a hybrid line. Peter Pryl out there was on that last mark against Deviney as Bear takes it back.
Yeah, they're probably going to be looking to convert a break, but Peter Pryl is no slouch on defense either.
Esser with the layout.
It's not as though they're taking a step down.
Same with a guy like Esser. You
Yeah.
can use him on your O-line, which Philly is doing.
And he's been playing both ways for a year now.
Patrick Deviney's going to air this one out. Esser wasn't ready for it. This time he lunges and lays out, but he can't catch up.
That is a fantastic effort on his part. The throw was just a little too far, but he gave full effort.
Well, at the same time, he didn't even realize that it had been made, so you have to wonder if he caught that initially. Maybe he catches up to that.
Yeah, but at the same time, sometimes that's the best way to beat a defender because the defender doesn't know that you're engaged with the offense either.
So DC will take it back. Moving up this near side, looking for Egan.
Philadelphia is poaching a little bit deep here to prevent the early deep look.
Egan got it up to Bellinger.
It's conceding some of these unders that you can see here, for example, with the way Pryl got open.
There's Wiggins. McClellan giving chase to him, looking right back to Pryl. A low throw, and it's going to be a little too low as Pryl turfs that one.
It's
Good
always
job,
frustrating when you get your offensive player in on defense and then he just makes an error once they have the Frisbee.
Which DC did a little bit of against Boston last week with Calvin Ong, very untraditionally. As Bear swings this one out to that far side.
That's a really nice pickup by Bear. That was the open player all the way across the field, and he got it through without any defenders having a chance at it.
Very quick to get rid of the disc as Bear, as McClellan now has it on the far side. Looked like he was winding up for a huck.
Well, he's almost always winding up for a huck.
Gets it to Esser right in the mid. Looking for Bear. Instead gives it over to Colton. Colton will air this one out. Looking downfield, I think that's Deviney.
Yep.
And Philly gets on the board first. For their first. Now 2-1 DC on top.
And that was another throw that Colton put up that wasn't really to a player who was moving, but he was open. He threw him open with that pass with the outside in arc on it.
So it took him a little bit of time here with now under 3 minutes left to go. We'll take a look at another one. Great layout there by Esser. And here's the huck.
The defender just didn't have a chance to change direction there. He had even less of a sight of the disc than the offensive player did. Needs to get his head around and see that throw released if he wants to make a play on it.
So a well-rested DC O-line will head back out. Markham Schaffner out there. Didn't see him touch the disc yet.
And it's always exciting when he does because similar to Ian in some senses, he's always looking deep first.
Schaffner had the big plays for the assists in the win against Boston that went into sudden death, and a quick tee by the Spinners gets it right back right in front of Schaffner, right on cue.
Yeah, that's pretty much what Leon is out there for. He's ready to close on the disc if the defender isn't ready there.
And Schaffner gets it right back, so he returns the favor.
The execution level for both teams right now is really subpar.
Lloyd Blake dumps it right back to Schaffner. Shakes off the huck, instead gets it up to Kolick. There's Wodach right at midfield. Up to Cranston. Cranston looking to air this one out, looking for Blake. He's got a Philly defender downfield, and Blake reels it in.
That was an excellent job just working up that far sideline there. Once they got it over there, their in-cuts were really easily made. And that's one of the things that we didn't see from Blake last weekend. He was a little timid cutting deep and getting away from the disc. His natural role is more of a handler despite his height.
Take another look. That was a quick turn for DC after giving it up. And Wodach getting it up to Blake.
It was a good outside-in throw there that made sure that the defender couldn't get around Blake. He slowed down a little bit, and the defender couldn't get a good run at it.
2:18 left to go here in the first. Philly looking to respond. They've had some mental mistakes, hoping to keep up with the current. Oh, Kevin Moldenhauer never thinks that his team's going to blow out anybody. He told me, he's like, you're not going to blow out anybody, so you got to learn to play the close game as Wiggins pulls.
Well, as a coach, you certainly have to prepare your team for that, although Kevin's team has certainly blown some teams
That's what
off
I thought
the field.
Too. It's like, yes, you have. You've done that. Here's Katzenbach. Up to Glazer. Glazer with a little bit of space. Now here comes the mark. Dumps it back to Haranet. Nick had a fairly quiet game last week against Boston. Had a couple of assists, no goals. Kind of characteristic for him, but it was only week one.
Well, at the same time, he was still a presence in their offense, and then later in the game, he did go down with some cramping issues, which is what led to us seeing Ian McClellan out there a little bit more than we usually do.
That's Sickles, made his impact in his first ever MLU game. Gets it to Rainwater, now looking to get it right back. Connects as Philadelphia threatening here. Johnson coming up for the mark. Sickles in a bit of trouble, and he gives it away.
That's Wiggins there on the D. That's an excellent read of the stall count.
Here's the big air out, looking for Delrico Johnson. He had a huge couple of catches against Boston, and it's nicely D'd up by Sickles at the other end.
He shouldn't even have had a chance at making that D. The throw went straight down the narrow side of the field, stayed on the sideline, and hardly came in bounds. If that was thrown to the center of the field, there's almost no chance that Delrico would not have come down with that.
And we have a call at the other end. Delay of game.
Looks like he brought it in at the wrong spot of the field. He's we're going back here into the end zone. He'll be bringing it out.
So that's Sickles, and then he's going to air it out right away. He's got Rainwater, and I believe that's Glazer down at the other end. A quick attempted D by DC, and Glazer ends up reeling it in on the follow-through. Here's Maida, right up to Rainwater. Jake, he's going to be just short of the end zone as he goes down to the ground. Glazer was right there waiting for it. Instead, he has to dump it back to Maida.
Yeah, Nam was closing in there trying to make the D.
And then they find Glazer. A little bit of hectic offense, but the patience pays off for the Philadelphia Spinners, and they make it 3-2. DC still on top.
That play by Marshall on the deep play, he went up early, which is what you have to do as the defender, but there were two offensive players there and only one defender. There have to be two people there so that you can help on the second player.
Matt Glazer had a couple of early goals against the Whitecaps a week ago. We're going to maintain that pace. So we're under a minute here. And take a look at the replay on this one. This is when Sickles gave it away to Wiggins, and then he comes right back and makes the big defensive play.
Oh, that looked a little tight there. That might have been a strip.
Saw Johnson maybe looking for that call. That one is Glazer just kind of the trailer.
Yep.
And then end up getting rewarded for his efforts at the other end.
And that's appropriate. One of the best things you can do as a player is track the disc, even when the pass isn't to you.
Just stay with it.
Absolutely. Effort counts for a lot.
Might not see it in the scorebook, but we definitely see it up here, and I'm sure the coaches see it too.
Yeah, that's one of the things you look for when you go back and look at film.
Blake floating one out to Kolick, and Kolick just reaching up. He's got long arms.
And he makes everything look so easy.
Doesn't he?
He and Jeff Graham are the two players that identify that just make the game look simple.
Pryl finds Schaffner. Schaffner floating one up, looking for Cantone, and he's got him.
Score by the DC.
That was a pretty easy offensive point there for DC. It looked like the Philadelphia defense didn't ever really get set and ready to pressure them.
A very quick score, too. DC, as we take another look Schaffner's first big touch, finding Cantone.
And we've talked about this before, but it's important to put that disc up higher so that the defense can't make a play on it in the end zone.
Let's see how Philly responds with just 10 seconds left to go here at the end of the first. This has kind of been a tough point for all teams. Going even back to last season is just managing that clock and knowing how much time you have to work down the field.
And the teams are all getting better at it, but at the same time, it seems like not every team is prepared to run out the clock when you get 30 seconds or 10 seconds left in a period. So right here, Philadelphia is going to get another chance. If DC had scored a little bit slower, there wouldn't be another chance here.
Coach Maroon told me before the game this is something that they worked on this week. They had 20 seconds they dictated, but we'll see how they respond here with just 10. As Sickles starts things off, gets it up to Katzenbach. He's going to have to put it. Finds McCullen. Ian, recognizing the clock, puts one up. That's not going to be far enough and should be D'd up by DC. It is, as Gabriel Webster comes in and makes the play for the Current. And the score is 4-2 here at the end of the first. We'll step away. Second quarter coming up here at Cardinal Stadium.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Welcome back to Cardinal Stadium as we look on at the Philadelphia Spinners. I'm sure in their spare time they love to play Can Jam. It's a proud sponsor of the MLU here in 2015. Can Jam is a fast-paced disc game perfect for the backyard, tailgating, or warming up for Ultimate. Get Can Jam today at the team store or online at canjam.com. Use bonus code ULTIMATE for 10% off your purchase. Make sure you also purchase Skippy Peanut Butter. Skippy, the official peanut butter of the DC Current and the Philadelphia Spinners, made with the funnest peanuts ever. Skippy, yippee! Dusty Rhodes alongside Jeff Poster here for the call of the game as our MLU live stream game of the week. The DC Current on top of the Philadelphia Spinners, 4-2 as we get ready to start the second quarter. And some long points, Dusty, in that first one. Not many stoppages really at all. We just had that one delay of game, and Philly trying to respond and hang in here with DC.
Yeah, it's kind of tight early. 2 points after the first quarter in terms of difference, but the DC team is looking a little more clear on what they want to do on defense. The Philly team is sort of relying on just getting the disc back, whereas the DC team looks like they're taking it away from Philadelphia. It looks like we'll be coming out here with DC on defense and Philadelphia on offense, and that should give them a chance to narrow it down to 1 point difference.
Well, they had that chance, too, with just the 10 seconds left to go at the end of the first. Couldn't capitalize on it.
Yeah, just couldn't get enough loft and enough pace on that throw. It's always tough when you have a mark and they know that you're running out of time, and all the defenders downfield are reading you essentially because they know they're
back.
They know that it's like playing free safety in football. You can see the whole field, and all you have to do is line up the play. You don't actually have to catch it.
Something that Boston was not able to do against DC a week ago, as we saw here.
Which was really surprising to me because generally they're a really well-drilled team. They're very prepared, and they don't tend to make errors that take themselves out of the game.
Good shot of the Philly O-line, getting ready to go.
They're looking very good in their new Canterbury underarms there.
That's right. I was saying before the game, I really like the Philly, especially the warm-up gear, those red jackets.
Yeah, they've got good style this year for sure. I even like the extra white stitching sort of on the back there.
The detailing is important for Dusty.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all in the details.
There's Jake Rainwater on this near side. As DC's defense up pressuring quickly.
And here again, he's not getting many options on two sides of the field. He's having to wait for one option, and there's no pressure on the mark, and the defenders can see it too.
Sickles looking for the huck against Delrico Johnson instead. Quick up-flying cut from Nick Haranet, and he's going to send a cross-field pass looking for Katzenbach, and it's D'd up nicely by Nate Castine.
That's not a guy you want to challenge too much either on unders or aways. He closes ground well. His hands are good enough that he makes catch blocks instead of deflecting the disc. And once he's on the turn, he's a big thrower.
There's Cranston. Was playing on the O-line to start this game. Now back on the D-line as Castine airs this one out, looking for Neely, and he reels it in.
The defender didn't come back to the disc at all there. He really needed to.
Good layout bid right there for the Current, but Neely's throw just a little bit too much for Marshall.
Yeah, and that's the same sort of throw that Nam messed up earlier in the first quarter. They just have to execute those. Those are easy breaks that they need to convert.
Billy Sickles up to Jake Rainwater. Rainwater going to air this one out, and I think a little bit of miscommunication between him and Glazer.
I think that's Rainwater's first turnover this year, and what he did there is he kind of nodded at his receiver as if he wanted him to go deep, and then he just put it up, and Glazer came under.
Glazer came under and played some good defense. Didn't get a hand on that one, but it got Neely enough to rush for that catch and doesn't come down with it. So Philly will take it back, threatening here. Over to Haranet on that far side. Nice pass. Ooh, big bid. They were looking for Rainwater. He's in just by a hair. But Nate Castine nearly came flying out of nowhere.
What had happened there is Cranston started to poach over to that break side to make sure that they couldn't get the easy one. And then Castine came flying out of nowhere. That was great awareness on his part to almost get that block.
I think Jake Rainwater kind of surprised to see Castine coming. I mean, who would?
Right, he doesn't have eyes in the back of his head, as it turns out.
There's the misconnection between Castine and Neely. And then here, look at this. Whew.
He even got a piece of it there. It almost popped out of Rainwater's hands.
Can see Jake Rainwater. I think he might want to wipe the sweat off his brow after that one a little bit.
Well, you know, he's got those big long arms. He's got big hands. He's a big body to get around. He made it. If he were smaller and if he wasn't in good position, that would have been a really easy block, actually, for Castine, who came flying at the disc like a bullet.
Didn't see Nate Castine a week ago, and even though he doesn't get that play right there, I'm sure Coach Moldenhauer and Coach Smolinski and Coach Eubanks pretty happy about that effort at least, and he nearly had that. Would have saved a goal.
And the awareness to set that up as well.
That's Blake on the far side, finding Schaffner. Schaffner with space. You don't want to do that. Here we go. Looking for Pryle downfield. Dave Bear right there. And Pryle going for the layout. Bear might have gotten a hand on it, but he had a good position in front of Pryle to cut him off from getting to that disc.
It was a really nice really well architected play there. They set up a nice counter motion to what they usually do on offense, and they gave Schaffner an open look to Pryle in the end zone with a much smaller defender on him.
Philly with a break opportunity as Bear airs this one out, but it's a little bit short.
I'm really not sure what Philadelphia thinks they're doing here once they get these opportunities for breaks. They seem to be throwing it back on the first throw.
Schaffner again puts this one up. This time he's got Blake in the end zone. He just reaches up and takes it over his man. What a put there by Schaffner and a great catch.
You could see the size difference there. It's like Blake just put a roof on a house there. He just reached over him, didn't have the player underneath of him, didn't have a chance.
Number 14.
So Markham Schaffner, he can't connect with Pryle. Then he gets a tighter mark on him with Chow picking up the mark, and he says, no problem.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Schaffner has no fear. He could make an error on 3, 4, 5, 6 straight throws, and he'll be throwing the 6th, 7th, and 8th throw too. He believes in himself, and he has confidence, and it's infectious for his team.
Now you can see a good shot of him there on the sideline, ready to just rally the O-line himself.
Of course he is. Well, if you think you can win the game with one throw, you're going to rally the team around you and have them believe.
Well, they're buying in. They're all listening. Him, Kolick, good shot of him, Pryle, Wodach. And there's the Philly O-line who had a chance to take the break and tie this game up at 4. Instead, though, it's now 5-3. DC still on top. They've led the whole way so far. 7:22 left to go here in the half. As it starts off with Marshall Ward quickly over to Haranet. There's Rainwater. Cranston comes up to mark him.
DC's defense is pushing them back towards the disc here. That first Rainwater cut was from downfield, but it ended up completely horizontal from the disc.
Philly without the services of Ben Sheridan, who is a big piece on their offensive side of the disc, is inactive tonight as Jake Rainwater gets that one in on the far side.
They need to get it down to this side.
A lot of open space,
Yep.
looking for Meta. Finds him right in front of that 35-yard line. Quickly up to Sickles. That was close.
It was good placement there. If he hadn't swung it so far out to the far side of the field, Delrico Johnson would have had an excellent play at a D there.
Dustin Damiano out there. Rainwater a little bit. Didn't have to quite lay out for that one. Goes down low. Quickly up to Katzenbach.
Rainwater should have been looking there. Katzenbach wanted to get the disc back around to the other side of the field, and Rainwater had his head turned.
And Sickles right in front of the end zone. Finds a nice cut. He had a lot of room in front of him. Marshall Ward bringing that one in for the Spinners.
Yeah, once you get into the end zone there, those shortcuts, just a little bit of advantage over your defender. You can maintain and score the easy goal.
There's Sickles. And his defense kind of bought, tried to go for the D, and he had all the room and time in the world to make that toss.
It was unlikely that he was going to be able to stop that play unless he actually made a D, because there's a lot of space there. All you need to do is get the disc around him, and that's exactly what the thrower did.
So 6:19 left to go here. DC still up 5-4. See if Philadelphia, a good shot. Marshall Ward in those Canterbury jerseys.
Speaking of detail, I like the way that the end of the sleeves is red there going around.
I like the Liberty Bell.
Well, you gotta have your local flair on each one. You can see the DC jerseys actually have 3 stars on the back for the flag of DC as well.
DC kind of rallied with that Washington DC flag a season ago here at home.
Well, it's one of those things that in the area that you live in, yeah, you take pride in what it is, and there's nothing quite like living in the District of Columbia. It's not really a state. You have to deal with taxation without representation. It's a very strange place to be.
Here's Jeff Wodach. Quickly over to Kolick. DC getting favorable field position to start this one after the last pull.
Yeah, they're just slicing up the side of the field.
Pryle. Took a lot of time that time. Just got it off Blake. Nice give and go between Blake and Peter Pryle.
What?
Textbook offense, right?
Very much so at the end. Their horizontal cuts got them up there, and then one of the best things you can do as a thrower, as you see here, is as soon as you get the disc back, you look to the person who just threw it to you, because they're most likely making eye contact with you. They can see you, you can see them. It's a much easier completion.
Rob Robinson was the guy trying to give chase to Pryle, but Peter just took off as soon as he dumped that disc over to Blake. And I mean, he had just said took a lot of time, but wasted no time headed to the end zone.
And at the end there, the thing that happens just after you release the disc is that you get to determine when you start. The defender, if he moves early, is giving up on the mark. And as you accelerate away from him into the end zone, as Pryle did there, it's an easy completion for your thrower.
Castine looking to pull.
Score is DC 6, Philadelphia 4.
Good pull. Katzenbach all the way to the front of that end zone.
Philadelphia is in kind of a horizontal stack here. Ian is looking off a couple open players.
Sends it out to the far side. That's Glazer. And then a bobble by McClellan. And DC right in front of the end zone. Just has to quickly put it in, and they get it up and in for the score. Oh, no. We've got a foul, so Philly catches.
Not entirely sure when that foul happened. I'm not sure if it was on the McClellan drop or if it was on the offense once DC had the disc.
So a little extra life here in the Philadelphia Spinners.
It should be a block. Oh.
They don't ever get up to it, so Haranet able to secure it.
Haranet started off behind his defender when that disc went up, and he was just much faster than Bellinger was coming back to it.
Philadelphia having a lot of trouble. Haranet, he might not get this off. Has to just put it up, and they call the stall anyway.
Yeah, all of his teammates were 15 yards or more farther away from him, and they weren't moving.
Agan's going to start this one off. This time, DC will have a good opportunity. Castine, they dump it back to him. And now we got a whistle. I think we do. Timeout called here by the Current. Kevin Moldenhauer probably looking to get his O-line in here to set up.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's not totally necessary, but once your offensive line gets onto the field, it should be an easier score, even though the defensive offense there was looking ready to go to the other side of the field.
So DC will be up 6-4. We'll see if they can punch one more in after this.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Good look at the DC huddle there as they call a timeout. This is the group I'm sure we're about to see take the field. And a good opportunity to push this up to a 3-goal lead, as DC has been in control all night so far.
Even just based on the way they were interacting there and the way that Schaffner was describing what's going to happen, they'll probably be looking to get the disc to this close side of the field, and then they'll attack from a new position after they move it.
4:58 left to go here in the first half. MLU live stream game of the week. Jeff Poster alongside Dusty Rhodes here at Cardinal Stadium on the campus of Catholic University in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And we've got a good game here. Reigning MLU champion DC Current trying to fend off the upstart Philadelphia Spinners, who I remember seeing a quote that Philly, who went 4-6 last year, trying to emulate the Current, who went 4-6 2 years ago.
Indeed.
And came back and ended up finishing 11-1 with the playoff and championship games counted for. And looking for it again as Kolick dumps it back to Ong.
There was good defense on the start there from Philadelphia. They didn't allow the easy score.
Blake, he's been a factor already in this one, finds Wodach. He kind of threw it behind Jeff. And then Wodach up to Pryle, and DC capitalizes out of the timeout.
Turns out to be a good timeout call. They need to verify that just getting the disc on the other team's end zone isn't enough. They need to get that score there, and to do so, they put their offensive line out.
Peter Pryle now with back-to-back scores here. Taking a look again as Wodach, a good lead there for Pryle.
Yeah, well, Pryle had beaten his defender for maybe 20 or 30 yards by the time that throw went up. All he knew was that there wasn't anyone near him. All he could focus on was the disc in front of him.
Spinners looking to respond. Pretty much led for most of the game a week ago, and kind of in a little bit of unfamiliar territory, at least this season.
Yeah. The rain doesn't seem to be increasing too much, but it's a steady light drizzle right now. It may be affecting some of the players on their throws and catches a little bit, but they should be able to overcome it without too much of a problem.
Lights are on now here at Cardinal Stadium as we get deeper into the night, as Billy Sickles jumps up high for that one. Thought about getting close. I think the DC sideline wanted an offensive foul against Sickles as he kind of dipped a shoulder into Johnson. No call, though.
Well, he certainly stepped into him, but it really wasn't contact that affected either person, I don't think.
There's Ward up to Harrinet. Harrinet airing one out. Katzenbach has got a beat on Wiggins. Wiggins, though, reaches up and makes the D.
That's what the inside position gives you. The disc has to go to the other side of him.
Meta going against Charles first, and then Jake Rainwater at the other end puts it in for another score.
These first throw turnovers from each team after their D teams get a block are just killing the flow of the game right now. These should be some easy breaks. These should be some situations where you can leverage your advantage, and they're just giving the disc back.
2 goals now for Rainwater. Makes it 7-5. They cut it to 2. Exactly 4 minutes left to go here in the half. As Philly gave one away. That would have been a nice huck from here. And it was an excellent D by Wiggins.
And we'll get an extra look at it here.
Katzenbach looked like he had that
Finger-
side up. But
Just his fingertips caught the rim of the disc from underneath, and that's all you need to disrupt the play.
Sickles with the assist, just a little floater right into Rainwater, and he just had to make a little tiny leap into the end zone. A little of a little, everything.
All that touch makes a difference. Of the experience throwing the disc, that you don't always have to throw it hard. You can just loft it up and let your receiver make the easy play.
Dave Bear looks to send a deep pull and force DC back in their own territory. Looks like Blake will pick this one up.
There's some good float on it, but these Philadelphia players don't seem to be getting down on the pull right now. We haven't seen much of that from either team at this point.
And that's conceding, 10, 15 yards to start off. You don't want to do that.
You can overcommit to it, too. If you come down too hard on your pull, the other player can beat you all the way up the field with a cut, and you'll never have a chance to recover.
There's Kolek right at midfield, but on that far sideline. He's got Schaffner making a deep cut. He slows down and finds Pryl.
And all these deep cuts the DC are making right now are attracting 2 to 3 Philadelphia defenders.
Kolek gets it back from Pryl. Got Ong making the undercut.
And that's an example of Kolek using the field very well to manipulate the entire defense.
A little give and go with Ong. Gets it back in front of his man, Davini.
And DC keeps having open, deep looks right now, but they're not rushing too much. I think they want to be conservative and make sure they get back on defense again.
Blake gets it back to Ong. That's Cantone. Up to Wodach. And here we go. The put from Wodach looking for Blake, and Lloyd Blake reels in another one.
There's a lot of space over there. All he had to do was set the disc out, put the outside in edge, and Blake was running deep with 2 defenders trailing him who were both smaller and slower than him.
Another look at the disc floated in nicely from Wodach to Blake, and unlike a week ago, Blake, who seemed to be thrown off maybe as a cutter, has seemed to have found his niche here.
Well, his niche is kind of that as a tall handler, he gets interesting matchups where you'll put a smaller person on him to use footwork against him as a handler, but then he can take those guys downfield, and if you loft a pass up near him, there's no chance that a smaller guy's going to get it.
Third score of the game for Blake, so already with the hat trick here in this one. It's not quite a term you'd use in Ultimate. But.
Well, I think you use that across all sports. You get the 3, you use that in soccer, you use that in hockey. I mean, we're not throwing any octopus on the ice here.
That's true. We're not doing that. No hats are flying up in the air. Here's Glazer. Rainwater gets it, dumps it right back to Haranet. Nick with some space looking for Sickles. He's got his man beat. Just has to make a leap. Comes down in the end zone, and Philly gets one right back.
Yeah, Marshall was closing on the disc there, but Sickles had been open by about 5 to 7 yards for a while. And so long as the pass didn't hold up too much, he was just going to maintain and score that goal. It looks like one of the teams is calling a timeout here.
After the score, timeout, DC.
Yeah, as you can see, Marshall was trying to close on it, but it sat up high enough that Sickles could take it at a very high point.
Read the disc nicely, and it was a good, quick dump back to Haranet, too. That gave him that space without the mark to just put that disc up in the air. Good shot of Billy Sickles. And the huddle there with Billy Maroon leading the charge here once again for the Spinners. His 3rd year as head coach. Battle of and Philly has, I think they've called timeout here to set up that midfield pull.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to. It'll be interesting to see how they come out. Both teams will be a little more used to it after the first week. In the first week, one of the things that we saw from Philadelphia was that their midfield pulls were not quite as strong as some of the other teams.
We'll step away here. We come back. Just 2:42 left to go here in the first half at Cardinal Stadium. Major League Ultimate proud to partner with this season U.S. Coachways. Do you have an athletic event, team trip, or corporate outing coming up? If so, charter a private bus, minibus, or party bus from U.S. Coachways. Bus travel is one of the safest, greenest, and most affordable ways to get your group to an event. If you're going with a group, trust U.S. Coachways. That's what we do. And Disc Store. If you're looking for anything from the MLU, head over to discstore.com to purchase official merchandise of Major League Ultimate, game discs, apparel, accessories, and more. Discstore.com is the world's premier supplier of Ultimate Frisbee products and the official store of the MLU. Discstore.com. That's discstore.com. Pulling from midfield, one of the new rules here in the MLU this season. If you call timeout and that one doesn't end up working out for the Spinners.
That's a terrible pull. It decreases the entire advantage. If you throw it just off the field, the other team gets it much further up. It wastes the timeout. And it's honestly a large enough field that you should probably get it on the field.
So instead of being pinned at the back of the end zone, DC will get very favorable field position. 2:42 left to go here in the first half. And Kolick will start up at a double team coming up. And he's able to break it easily and find Wodach. Wodach up to Cranston. Cranston really just playing both sides of the disc tonight. He's been switching O-line, D-line.
And in the words of Coach Moldenhauer, he's earned it. Cranston has been a strong player for this team so far every year.
He had a pick downfield, so DC will have to back up.
Foul on DC.
We'll see here if Philadelphia continues doing a little bit of switching. What they came out in this point was they were dropping Rainwater back and having some help over the top.
Pryle wasting no time looking for Kolick downfield, and Kolick reads it beautifully and reels it in for another score. So the midfield pull comes back to bite Philly there. Doesn't help him at all.
It wasn't a good pull, and actually after that stoppage there, Rainwater was dropping deep, and he just wasn't fast enough.
Number 99, Allen.
So Pryle wasting no time. You see him right there again. Kolick just beats three Philly defenders.
He's outsprinting three guys, one of which was placed there specifically not to let that play happen. The execution there on Philadelphia's defense is subpar, but at the same time, Kolick is really difficult to keep up with.
He does a little bit of everything. You know, we're normally talking about the throws and his puts, but he's out there making the cuts too.
Oh, and he has a history of coming down with this in traffic, getting wide open on deep cuts as he did there. He's a threat all over the field.
I'll never forget that in our first season, that catch he made in the last regular season game. Went over, 5 different guys, just reached up and grabbed.
Maybe two of his teammates, 3 people on the other team. It was incredible.
It's hard to nail down that one specific moment, though, because he's done it a few times.
To be fair, that's exactly the same moment I was thinking of.
So DC pulling once again. And Philly will start things off. Hairnet gets it up to Rainwater. Quickly up to Meta.
And we've got some aggressive far side poaching here from the DCD.
Glazer had to stop short a little bit on his cut that time. Finds Katzenbach.
Wiggins is losing his footing there a little bit.
That field maybe getting a little slick with the rain. Rainwater putting this one up for Sickles. Reels it in just short of the end zone, but then finds his man Katzenbach, who's all alone. Philadelphia at least holding this to that 2-goal lead.
Yeah, they're doing a good job of confirming it. The thing that happened here, the way that after this disc went up, you can see Katzenbach right here taking off deep. Sickles catches it, and after as soon as that throw went up, Katzenbach just ran all the way to the end zone. No one ran with him. Someone has to cover him all the way downfield, or he's going to get an easy goal.
We'll take another break. 9-7, DC on top of Philadelphia here at Cardinal Stadium.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Welcome back to Cardinal Stadium. Good look at Coach Maroon in the Philadelphia huddle, as we're going to see Philadelphia called their second timeout here in the first half. DC still has one left. We'll see if the Spinners can nail down that midfield pull this time. Last time it did not go the way they wanted at all.
And you can see Maroon here is talking about exactly what he wants to see from their defense. It looks like they're probably going to come out in a zone just based on the way that his hands are talking about what's going on. But that's going to rely on them getting a good pull in. And then we'll see, when we come back out here, we'll see DC's offense line up all the way across the end zone so that whichever side Philadelphia pulls to, there will be a player close to it to pick it up and put it into play quickly, hopefully before the Philadelphia defense is set and ready to go.
See a shot of some of the DC defenders. More probably just talking about how to close out this quarter. See the O-line come back out.
Yeah, with a minute 33 left here, there's time enough for both teams to have a couple opportunities on offense and defense. But this is the point in a quarter or any other period where you start worrying about clock management. So if you don't want to leave the other team with too much time, but you don't want to change your strategy so much that you're getting out of what you naturally do.
Now Cranston once again heading back out there with that DC O-line. And it's going to be Gabe Colton on the pull for the Spinners. Last time we saw the pull on the near side, he's on the far side of that.
Well, and the throw that he chose to throw was an outside-in backhand sort of blade, and if you're on this tight sideline here, that has a chance to go out of bounds. If you pull that same throw from the other side of the field, you have a lot larger room for error.
So let's see what he does. He does go for the backhand, trying to spin it. Nicely done by Ong to stop it before it got too far in the back of the end zone.
Yeah, Philly's coming out in a zone here. It's kind of like a three-person cup, but it's also kind of merging into a 1-3-3 here.
So Pryl with space, waiting as looks like Philly switching back to man. They're going to air this one out, looking for Wodach downfield. Can he reel it in? Backing up, he does, and stays in bounds.
The Philadelphia defense there didn't apply enough pressure or give anything to the DC offense that they weren't prepared for. They were open players. They moved it up the field and then took aggressive advantage deep on this look from Blake, as the Philadelphia defenders never really caught up into a good, strong man D.
Look at Wodach. You can see his eyes right on the disc. He's taking those steps back. And
yeah, as the disc was up, once he saw where it was going to, he actually took a look down to see where he was on the field, make sure he was aware and knew how much space he had, and then he had enough time to focus on just the disc.
First score of the game for Wodach, as DC calls timeout, and they'll pull from midfield when we come back. It's 10-7 here at Cardinal Stadium. .109 left to go here in the half. DC Current just putting one back up to push it to a 3-goal lead. They've maintained that distance pretty much this whole time. These teams have gone back and forth here in the second quarter. A lot of scoring, a lot of quick puts downfield. And now the Current will have a chance out of the timeout to pull from midfield themselves. We've seen Philly do it twice already. Not a ton of success for the Spinners in doing it, but we'll see what the Current can do.
Yeah, and most teams, when they pull from half field, they try to use a defense other than just a plain vanilla man defense. So what they'll do is they'll try to work, as we saw Philadelphia do, with a three-person cup, something a little more to vary it up, because you're looking to apply that pressure a little bit more so that the offense will just essentially throw you the disc in a situation that they're not used to or they're not comfortable in. And one of the reasons that they try to pull all the way to the back of the end zone is usually behind the thrower you have space to throw to less contested throws, but if you get it all the way in the back, there's no room.
Marshall will pull as we see Jake Rainwater. Center your screen lined up. And Marshall with the flick, and he's going to try to roll this one in. Nick Harnett, nice job tracking it down, keeping it in front of him. Gets it up to McClellan. Nice mark there by Bellinger.
And actually, DC has come out in just a man defense, but that's been their calling card ever since the league has started.
There's McClellan up to Maida. Had to go down low, but reels it in and then disconnect between him and McClellan as McClellan slipped, and Maida had already made the throw, and DC with a chance for a break and to push this to a 4-goal lead. Egan.
They've already had a couple opportunities for open players in the end zone, but a little patience here could go a long way to...
Castine looking into the end zone for Bellinger, and he got just enough of it, kind of running in that horizontal line right in front of the end zone. Just has to take one step back.
Yeah, and it's good field awareness to know where the line is and know that there are no defenders around him, so he has the time to make it a goal as opposed to just a swing catch.
There it is again. Neely going to his right and then changing direction, looking left. Bellinger with a good cut.
Yeah, and there was a lot of open space over there. All the Philadelphia defenders had committed to this side. And for the DC offense, it was more a matter of how they were going to get over to the far side of the field and get the score on that side.
Nice shot of Bellinger right there. Giving a wave. Must have some fans in the stands here tonight.
Oh, he's a great player to be a fan of. He works so hard on defense, and then he possesses the disc generally from behind. How could you not be a fan of somebody who works so hard and doesn't get all the stats and doesn't get all the glory?
Well, I tell you, one guy in that DC D-line who probably earned some new fans was Fleming after his big play to save the game in sudden death.
That was a giant play.
And then got onto Sports Center with his huge layout D. Here's Katzenbach after the pull from Wiggins. Bear quickly up ahead to Sickles. Sickles having to get around Del Rico Johnson. Had the game winner a week ago.
That was a tough catch, too.
Had the game winner and the catch that sent it into overtime. So
game winner looked like a catch that he made both with his hands and his knees.
10 seconds remaining. 9, 8.
Quickly over to Ward. Katzenbach's going to have to put this as the clock winding down here. There it is, and it's just going to be D'd up, just like the end of the first quarter. Philly has a chance with the clock winding down, but can't come up with it, and it's 11-7 as we head into halftime.
Their motion downfield there as the clock ran out wasn't very strong. The players who were downfield weren't particularly in the end zone, and Katzenbach had to get rid of the disc.
We're going to break here for halftime. It's 11-7, DC on top of Philly, but don't go anywhere. We got a good one here at Cardinal Stadium.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Welcome back to Cardinals Stadium. 11-7 the score at halftime. Dave Bear standing down at the sideline. Let's check in with Dave and how he thought that first half went.
Hey, Dave, how you doing? Dusty Rhodes here. A couple questions about that first half.
Sure.
First of all, both teams seem to be turning the disc over a lot right after they get blocks. Is that what did you see out there?
I think that's probably part of the weather, right? You get a block, disc is on the ground. You're going to pick that up. It's going to be pretty wet. I know both teams, we like the fast break. They like the fast break. Unfortunately, with a wet disc, that's hard to do.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely saw each team being aggressive after the turn, and that was kind of a calling card of that whole thing.
Yeah.
One of the things we saw when you guys pulled from midfield is that you changed pullers at that point. What's the thought process that goes into who pulls from the end zone versus who pulls from midfield?
Everybody's got their own skill set. I know Patrick Davini, for instance, he puts way more spin on the disc than I can get on there, and when you're trying to roll something, that can be a big deal.
And one of the things the team relies on you and Colton to do is sort of steady the defense team's offense after the turn. How do you guys plan to do that, as you say, with the disc being a little bit wet and the fast breaks not being there?
Yeah, it's tough. Everything's got to be just an extra second to hold on, make sure the grip is right. There's definitely throws out there that I know personally I'm not throwing because I don't have the grip there, even with the extra grip that these gloves do provide.
Yeah. So going into the second half, should we expect to see anything different from the defense when you guys are attacking the DCO?
You mean after we get a turn?
Oh, either then or when you're matching up on them off of the line.
I don't think at this point we're doing a good enough job of being physical downfield, forcing them to go where we want them to go. Mm-hmm. They're doing a great job of isolating one-on-one so that even on a throw that's not perfect, which they've had a few of, they've had a one-on-one matchup, able to throw to space, and we're just not covering the ground we need to cover. I think to change that, we got to be a little more positioned, a little better, a little more physical, a little able to force them to go where we can get blocks.
Yeah, they're a really tough team to match up with. They have some big guys, they have some fast guys, they move people around. We're excited to see how you come out in the second half here. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Dusty.
2 minutes. 2 minutes to go.
Great stuff there from Dave Bear. It's 11-7 here. DC on top of the Philadelphia Spinners at halftime. We'll step away briefly here and come back. Well, we'll take a look at a little bit recap that first half.
Oh, does that mean we're going to get some highlights?
Welcome back to Cardinal Stadium here at halftime. There's some halftime festivities going on down field side. 11-7, your score. The DC Current on top of the Philadelphia Spinners. Jeff Poster alongside Dusty Rhodes. And Dusty, that's pretty much DC that whole time. Philly, they kind of went back and forth for a little bit there in that second quarter, but DC well in control of this game.
And this is actually similar to what has been happening to Philly the whole time, is that they get in these high-scoring games because they convert on offense, and then the other team gets a couple breaks on defense, and the pace stays the same.
There's one of those big Ds that we saw. We saw a couple of those, but then teams would immediately give it right back up.
Yeah, and from both sides, these guys are making the plays where, like, we see Esther laying out for the disc here. We see Colton making the big throw to Davini, who's going to be, as you can see, the defender was just beat by that throw.
Good D right there from Maida. Here's another one. That was Wiggins, I believe, and then Glazer had a couple of goals there early. And
this might have been a strip here. From here, it's hard to tell on the first time, but now that we've seen the replay, it really looked like Rico had caught the disc there and stopped rotation.
Pryle had a big first half, as he usually does, and that was the huge D that we saw from Wiggins, but then they ended up getting that one right back. One of those examples of Philly, especially, getting rid of it and then getting it right back and making DC pay.
Oh, and this is that great read by Wodach here. He did a good job as the defender to try to make a play there, and the disc coming in from over his head, but there was no chance.
So 11-7 is your score as we're here at halftime. We'll step away once again. DC on top of Philadelphia.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Halftime here at Cardinal Stadium, as you've seen down on the field, Canterbury Apparel. Canterbury, the official apparel supplier of Major League Ultimate. Dress like a pro. Visit www.canterburyus.com, the destination for all your team's custom uniforms and athletic apparel needs. Canterbury, proud partner of Major League Ultimate, committed to the game. Point Six Socks. Point Six Socks, the official sock sponsor of Major League Ultimate. Check out www.point6.com for their full line of performance merino wool socks. So with Canterbury and Point Six, Dusty, you can dress just like your favorite MLU player. 11-7 here. Take a look at the defensive plays of the week.
Oh, and we know which one this is going to be coming up, and it's
Oh, yeah.
always a pleasure to see this every single time. When we see this play coming up, you're going to see the speed with which he closes, and his stride length and power on this run are just incredible.
Christian Foster had him beat initially. Fleming just
That is a great chase down by
And
Fleming.
Foster is not slow at all.
No.
He's pumping his arms. He's going so hard for this disc.
And remember, that was in sudden death, so
Timely
all you
as
need to
well.
do, exactly, yeah. Here's the catch of the week from Friction Gloves. We'll head out west for this one with Thomas Adams out.
This
San
is a good
Francisco
chase down as well.
Dogfish.
The Huck goes up here, and he just keeps giving full effort. And not only that, but at the end, he has to extend all the way out and catch it just before it gets to the ground.
Excellent layup. Even that first little lofted pass was down low. The guy had to dig it out, but that's impressive as it is.
Maybe that's why the throw wasn't quite as good as this next one.
I love this throw, the end of a throw of the week from Henry Fan. This was my favorite, to be honest.
It has a lot of touch on it. It has that outside into it, and it gets around a couple of defenders. And his awareness to get it out when he got it out is key.
I love just this Portland defender right there. Just takes. You see it again. He has to look around like, huh? What?
Well, really, he should have been looking back at the thrower. He's got to see that too. His timing was just a little bit off.
Let's take a look now. The offensive play of the week. Not necessarily a throw, not necessarily a catch, but the offensive play from Timmy Preston out of Portland.
And this is just another case of speed. You can see as the disc goes up there that he is behind the defender, and the throw was up when he was behind the defender. That's trusting your receiver, and you can see how excited he is for it.
Should be. He should be.
Preston has an amount of speed and an ability in the air that few other players can match league-wide.
It's a phenomenal catch. So all those highlights, you can find those on tv.mluultimate.com. So we look again, a little bit of can jam going on here at Cardinal Stadium. It's 11-7 here at halftime. DC on top of Philly. We're going to step away again, but the third quarter coming up here at Cardinal Stadium. And we saw some kids out there enjoying halftime playing Can Jam. Can Jam is the proud sponsor of the MLU in 2015. Can Jam is a fast-paced disc game perfect for the backyard, tailgating, or just warming up for Ultimate. Get Can Jam today at the team store or online at canjam.com. Use bonus code ULTIMATE for 10% off of your purchase. It's been a fun game so far here as we get ready to start that third quarter. DC on top of Philly, 11-7. And just really in control. Let's take a look as we approach this second half. What does Philly have to do? Take a look back at those keys of the game we saw at the beginning. What do they have to do to get back into this one?
Well, as you see the last one here, talking about Rainwater, he's been involved, but most of his involvement has been filling in the underneath space for Philadelphia. We haven't really seen him get away from the field and press up to press the DC defense deep. And if they can get a little more aggressive on that in situations where they get players open and challenge the DCD to not only spread out, but open up the entire field a little bit more. That'll make a difference. And the other thing they have to do is once they get those opportunities for breaks, they really need to convert. They are going to have an opportunity in this second half, a couple opportunities most likely to make a run, and they need to do that.
I see win the fourth on there too. DC's outscored Philly in both the first two quarters, 4-2, 7-5. So on the other side, though, what does DC have to do to maintain this lead and just keep doing what they're doing?
Well, in order to maintain the lead, the biggest thing they have to do is play on offense well. Pryle has been involved in the game. But it's been more than that for their offense. Lloyd Blake has shown up very well in this game. He's been a little more versatile than he has in the past. But the thing for them is that if they maintain the defensive pressure for the rest of the game, that'll keep Philadelphia on their heels. And that'll mean that the DC offense doesn't have to play as many points. If they do that for the rest of it and then attack a little bit more, the DC Current should be looking at extending this advantage.
Well, both of these teams would at least still find themselves in either first or second place here in the East, looking for that early season dominance. We were updated that Boston defeated New York earlier tonight, so Whitecaps are already now playing 3 games. They'll still be at least in third, and DC or the Spinners will still find themselves on top of the Eastern Conference in what might be a dogfight this season. So we'll step away. Third quarter coming up. DC still on top, 11-7.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Welcome back to Cardinal Stadium as we get set to start the third quarter. It's 11-7, DC on top of Philly. Jeff Poster alongside Dusty Rhodes for our MLU Live Game of the Week here in the Eastern Conference. This team looking to, as we just started to say, kind of put the early foothold at the top of the Eastern Conference. Either one of them will remain in first place.
Yeah, and it's interesting to watch the way that teams play when they're ahead and when they're behind and when they feel like they're in first place, whether they actually are or not. Right now, what we're seeing before we're coming out of half here is that the Spinners are getting a lot of throws in right now, trying to work and get more familiar with the disc. You could hear Dave Bayer in our interview talk about some of the players are looking off throws that they feel that they normally have. And one of the best ways to get used to that is just to get out and throw in this rain right now in the actual conditions that you're existing in and execute some of those throws you expect to see during the rest of the game.
How hard is it these early season games as we're still early here in the spring, pushing into summer to get used to playing outside again?
Well, it depends on first of all, it depends on how comfortable you are with your offense and with your team. When you're executing a role that you're familiar with, like most of the DC's offense is, then you're in a situation where you're doing something you're comfortable. You don't really think about whether you're outside or inside. It's familiar. There's a little more turnover on some of the other teams, a little more folks switching around on lines. But once you get outside, you just have to go for it. You know, it's that competition that drives you through any sorts of the conditions.
Don't forget the code.
Well, as we get set to go, DC ready to take the field. Philadelphia in their huddle right now. 10 minutes have been put back on the clock. DC with their O-line back out there will receive the disc to start. They were impressive. Peter Pryor with a couple of goals. Lloyd Blake, as we said, with the hat trick earlier, but he's also had a few assists, so he's been impressive to watch. Bellinger, he's done nicely on defense. Kolick, of course, is Kolick.
It's just a matter of which good plays he's going to make.
Right.
Whether they're assists or goals, there are always moments in the game.
They'll be there.
Yeah, and he's one of those players, as we said before, that makes it look easy. He reminds me almost in a way of Steph Curry right now, where it's the sort of thing where it's just a matter of when he's going to get hot and how hot he's going to get. He does things on the field that sort of remind you how much fun it is to play these games.
Well, I can tell you, I don't think he likes the rain too much. We've seen him under that umbrella a couple of times tonight. He's not enjoying the rain.
Maybe he's just trying to support America here with
That's
the design
possible.
we've
That's
got.
possible. Yeah. Dave Bear set to pull as the second half is underway. Philadelphia looking to respond. They've been able to maintain it usually between that 2-3 goal mark, but right now trailing by 4, 11-7, and DC starting with the disc as Cranston catches that one on the far side.
Ooh. Good reel in there by Wodach.
Wodach looking for Pryl. He's got to beat two Philly defenders. And coming over and making the stop, Tom O'Connor. Number 44, first time we've called his name tonight.
Yeah, and Pryl looks a little miffed there. He feels that he was maybe contacted or whatever, but it was a throw into double coverage. You can't always expect to get the call when your thrower is making an error like that.
So Bear will start things off for Philly, looking for a break. They haven't had a ton of them tonight. You see a couple of quick downfield cuts.
And some good aggressive switching there by DC. You can see Kolek calling out the play, calling out whether they're going to happen or not.
Nearly a Callahan right there as O'Connor and Ong got tangled up. O'Connor reels it in, though.
Calvin's a very aggressive defender after DC's offense turns the disc. That's one of the hallmarks of their offensive play.
There's Colton, another layout bid for the D by Cranston. Philly able to maintain control, sending it out to Esser. Esser with a size advantage over Schaffner on the mark. Dumps it back to Colton.
He's one of the bigger, stronger players in the league. He has a size advantage over players who are taller than him, too, which is kind of interesting to say.
That's O'Connor again. Very involved at this point, looking to dump it back to Bear. Bear had a good step to his right and went back to his left.
And again, this is another point where we can describe the Philadelphia offense as stagnant. Their downfield players are not moving; they're just sort of shuffling across the field, which puts a lot of pressure on your handlers, where you have to throw throws like that.
And they just barely threaded in. What a catch there, O'Connor with the bookends.
It's a good job on his part to make that play, and Dave Bear saw the throw and executed it. But you can see that it is such a harder throw, and Ong is ready to make the play that the offense is being made more difficult than it needs to be.
Now, O'Connor pretty pumped up after he should be. He's a tall guy too. He had to go down low for that one. Dave Bear just threaded the needle there. Take a look at this one again.
Oh yeah, we'll
Here's
see
the
if there's
D.
a contact here. No, looks like it was just a drop to me. It looks like it hit Pryl in the hands, or hand, I should say.
And there's where he was all over this play. Got the D, nearly lost it for the Callahan, and then has to dig this one out just behind Calvin Ong.
Yeah.
Big spike, too. He needs that one, because those are the types of plays I'm assuring that you would hear if you didn't make it. You've got to go to the disc.
Absolutely. You have to have the hands to be able to make the play. Ong may have gotten a piece of it there, and if you're used enough to catching discs like that, you'll catch it anyway.
Could that be a momentum swinger maybe for Philadelphia with a
It's a start. It's a start.
heartbreaking what DC thought might be a D and a break point?
They're getting the start of a sniff of some momentum here. They really need to get another break opportunity early in this quarter, though.
Well, Philly getting a couple of substitutions out there. DC sticking with the same group. As Wodach reels that one in midfield, far side. Floats one up to Blake and floats it out of bounds. So another opportunity here for the Spinners.
I would expect them to maintain the disc here. I would expect to see a high number of throws on this possession. Oh, it looks like there was a foul call, so Wodach is going to come back with it here. That kind of explains how ugly that throw was.
So it's 11-8 now with 7:36 left to go here in the third.
And they're running a little isolation here for Blake. And look at the size difference.
Big size advantage. And then he tries to get one up to Pryl. And Pryl now, twice they've put him right there in the end zone. He's not been able to come up with it. Some tough throws.
Well, that's the throw he should be taking as a player who's that tall.
Big air out this time from our other Bear. And he reels that one in up ahead. And Philly now threatening once again.
It was a totally unmarked throw.
Right up to Ken Wells, and then there's the turn.
These execution errors, it's happening on both sides, but Philadelphia seems to be bearing the brunt of the more meaningful execution errors.
Jonathan Casey not able to make the clean catch and giving it right back. As the Spinners were threatening for another break. Would have been back-to-back.
They were getting down the field well there.
Here's another huck and an opportunity for Blake, just beating out his man and coming in for the score. The tower there just could not keep up. The short legs versus the long legs.
And it's a height, too. If that disc had floated, it would have been to Blake's advantage. If it had sat, it would have been to Blake's advantage. The tower had no opportunity there.
So,
Blake's
boy,
having a heck of a game
He really
here, right?
is. I was just about to say that. That's his 4th goal. I know he has at least 1 assist, too. He's just all over the place.
I think I made a last-minute decision to take him out of my fantasy lineup this week. I might be regretting it. But I hear Tyler Chan had a big game as well, and I think that's the guy I switched in. So it might turn out
Maybe
all
it'll
right.
work out for you. So that makes it 12-8. DC pushes it back up to that 4-goal lead. 6:43 left to go here in the 3rd. And they didn't need to sub out that O-line either.
That drop is just a nightmare for Philadelphia. They had an opportunity to get 2 straight breaks to start the quarter, and if they don't get back into this game, that's the moment you're going to look back at.
Now they get their O-line back out there for the first time here in the 3rd. Hearing it over to Katzenbach.
A lot of pressure here.
Horizontal stack again. Hearing it. Pressured a lot right now by Cantone, and it's taken away by Bellinger, and in for another score.
Yeah, that was a nice quick attack there. DC was trailing their players a little bit and seeing the throwers, so they're trying to close down on all those downfield cuts. The throwers looked that off, and now they have to go to a reset here that is tightly covered by a heads-up defender in Wiggins.
Philly's had a couple of troubles with their dump passes tonight. We've seen that a few times, and Wiggins got the D and the score, so bookends for him right in front of that end zone.
Yeah, part of the reason they're having difficulty is as we were mentioning, that the DC defense is pressuring those underneath cuts from downfield a little bit harder right now, and Philadelphia isn't recognizing that early, so they're going to their reset options late in the stall count, which helps the defender because they know that the disc is coming up early as opposed to a lot of different options.
Look at
You can see the disappointment here across just about every single player here on the Philadelphia sideline. Chow's trying to get people back into it, but still, I'm not sure they believe right now.
Trailing now, the largest lead of the game here for DC, up 5, 13-8, and pulling. Philly keeping that same line out there.
This is a situation where a shorter pull that dove to the side is actually better covered than deeper hanging pulls.
Catch by Glazer. He had to go down to the ground. I think he just lost his footing.
Rainwater's going deep.
Get it right back to Hiranet after Ward took it briefly. Katzenbach reaching out, making the catch.
A lot of spinners just kind of running around near the disc on the break side here. I'm not sure what their plan is on offense at the moment.
Katzenbach was looking for that upline cut. They find Rainwater. Nice catch there by Meta.
It was an excellent poach D coming across the field there. That's good heads-up awareness. They got two defenders on that one play there.
Nick Hiranet reels that one in around Bellinger. Rainwater on the far side. Cranston on him. And then they find Ward as the defense just kind of broke down there for DC. They know it. They all had their hands on their heads right there.
Yeah, it broke down later on there for the DCD, but they had their chance at a block early, and they put Philadelphia in situations where it wasn't clear where Philadelphia wanted to attack. Philadelphia really needed to score that one, and they did. But that early hole that they put themselves in by giving up a break means that they're down 4 points right now.
Billy Sickles gets the assist. You see Rainwater. That was the nice layout grab by Maida. And then another throw by Rainwater up to Sickles, and Ward pretty much all alone at that point.
Yeah, Freddie Sy had a really good bid across the front of the offense there. That's one of the dangers that you have when you run a vertical stack, is that you have a handful of defenders near the disc who, if their heads up enough, they can make plays coming across the field to vertical cuts coming in.
Nice look at the DCD line there. Castine trying to rally the troops and not give up some easy ones like that.
And even that talk on the sideline is something you miss when a player is out or feeling under the weather. And seeing him come back and sort of try to own this defensive line is going to help DC.
Which we had talked before off camera about how much he hadn't been much of a factor for DC even last season. Now they've got him back here, hopefully kind of full time. Makes him that much better.
Yeah, having him back and then also adding Wiggins makes a big difference for this team.
So Schaffner here handling was looking for a foul, actually looked back at the referee before a call was even made, and potentially giving up on the stall count, and now we do get the call.
It might be a call there, but that's one of the losses that you get when you take your head out of paying attention to the game and you start playing against the refs.
Just contact, and then Schaffner airs this one out, looking to send this one into Pryl. Peter reads it, but jumped a little bit too earlier, and then it's knocked down.
And he still had a better chance at it than the defensive player did. He just needed to make the catch.
Colton will start things off. Philadelphia looking for a break. They've already had one in this quarter. Floats one out to Bear.
It's good communication there to make sure they didn't run into each other. There's also a good toss by Colton out there into space.
And Bear, ooh, nice layout there by Dave Bear. He was about a mile away from that disc before he got it.
Closed on it and believed. Wasn't quite as good a throw from Colton that time.
No. Bear gets it right back from Esser. Esser with the upline cut. It's shaken off. Chow there. Chow reels it in, and he's going to air this one out looking for O'Connor, and that's just going to be way too far away for him to reel down.
Yeah, that throw was pretty much in a straight line. It needed to cut back across the field with more outside in on it. It looked like Chow was trying to outthrow the defense, and when you try to throw it as hard as you can, it's very difficult to maintain touch and movement on your throw late in the flight path.
Ong gets it to Blake. Blake is the man of the hour here tonight for the DC Current as he floats one up on the flick to Wodach. Wodach finds Kolick.
And Blake is chugging downfield.
And just getting aware in time. Lays out, but he can't come up with that one. He didn't know that Kolick had thrown that right away.
Yeah, a little more touch on it would have been good if it had, if it had banked back towards the center of the field. It wouldn't have mattered if Blake had known it was up right away.
So Philly with another chance as Bear sends this one over to Esser. Esser gets it onto the near side. Bear gets it right back.
He's putting that up to Deviney.
Deviney and Pryl gets a hand on it. Patrick Deviney might have had even a chance still after Pryl got a hand on it. It was still up in the air, but got just enough.
He did, but again, these are just throwing errors. That throw, if it had led toward the center of the field, it would have eliminated the defender from the play. As it was a better throw for the defender than it was for offense.
Here comes the huck for Schaffner. Jeff Wodach, can he run this one down? He leaps and he's into the end zone. And that's why I like to call Jeff Wodach the locomotive.
I knew you were going to bring that up, and it's an accurate description because once he gets going, there aren't many players in the league who can maintain pace with him, and the throwers know that. You could see Schaffner as he recognized which guy was cutting deep that he was going to put it, and it was going to be caught up to. In the booth, we might think that that's a questionable play where he might not catch up, but Wodach is the guy you can trust.
He never looks like he's going to get there in time, but then he turns on those jets.
And you can see him puffing and puffing a little bit coming off. He had to use a lot of energy to make it.
So here's the throw by Bear, and Pryl with the nice read defensively.
Philadelphia 9.
Looking for Deviney. And then quickly, here comes Wodach the other way, and a beautiful read.
You're right.
I love when he tracks those ones down.
You're right. It really doesn't look like he's moving that fast, but he's just covering so much ground with each stride.
14-9 now as we're under 3 minutes, 2:57 specifically left to go here in the third. DC pushing their lead to 5. And starting to really pull away here as they pull.
Well said.
Thank you.
As Wiggins is getting ready to pull here, this could be the breaking point for Philadelphia.
Wiggins with a good pull. Sends one down, and Hiranet will pick it up and start things off. Shakes off Ward, gets it to Katzenbach.
And Philadelphia came out in a side stack there, and usually when you come out in a side stack, you go to the big open side of the field. This time they ran counter back down that same side.
And Rainwater wastes no time getting it to Glazer, which is what they need to do, a quick score.
That's a good offensive play design. It takes the defense out of what they expect you're going to do. And if they set up for what you normally do, then you're left with this open throw down the sideline.
Quick look again, just Glazer routine running his route basically.
Yeah, and the route that he ran there started on the sideline, circled out wide towards the center of the field, and then ran back down the sideline, creating an open lane for Rainwater to put the disc up into. It's not a particularly easy throw, but if you're a good thrower, you'll put that out and make the goal happen.
So they cut it back down to 4, 14-10, 2:46 left to go. Said they need a couple of quick scores here and quite
it's a good
few
start.
breaks.
It's the breaks that are really going to make the difference. They can score as quickly as they want on offense, but if they get 0 breaks here, it's not going to make a difference. That drop, it's still stuck in my mind because it made such a difference.
Here's the pull from Philly. Not much of a breather for that DCO line.
Wow. Did anybody even cover him?
Nope, Kolek just...
It's Peter Pryle. There's not a defender near him still.
He's going to milk this one all the way. He thought he might be able to get it into the end zone, but he's just maybe an inch short, and then he finds Wodach for another score.
Unintentional foul there, but a little extra contact from Pana. He was just trying to cover for what happened there on the D. There's really no explanation for it. I can't. The guy ran. They created an open side. They set one cutter out into it, and no one covered him.
On the score.
And you saw Pryle. He just watched that one soar and was just going to... Here's the throw. Kolek can't give him that kind of cut downfield. Nice shot of the disc.
A little warning track power here, though. He really should have put that into the end zone.
You can see he's almost laughing. Like, I thought I'd get this. I thought I could milk it the whole way.
And on that close-up there, we started to see that he has something written on his headband. There are words there, or characters, and I'm not sure what they are. We're going to have to ask him about it.
Peter Pryle, we love to say it. He's still technically the only undefeated 3-year player here in the MLU.
And he's always demure about it when you ask him, but he laughs.
Oh, he
laughs.
does.
He missed that one defeat that DC had last year, and he played for Boston the first year when they went undefeated. Gives a lot of credit to his teammates. You always like to hear that.
Philly now in desperation mode, still with 2:22 left to go here in the third. But trailing once again by 5, 15-10. Here's Haranet. Big fake.
Philly is really stuck on the sideline right. There we go. They got to get it over to this side right now. The DC defense is feeling a little too full of themselves.
Good dump cuts to center that disc as Maida picks that one up about midfield, finds Rainwater with a one-handed grab. And his flick out to Sickles. Just got to beat
Marshall and Chase.
Marshall. And Marshall beats him.
And that is a D.
Marshall's yet another one of the defenders that you have for DC who always chases these discs down, and he has enough speed where he gets there. If there were more space on the field out that way, it might have been an easy reception, but the receiver has to slow down as the sideline approaches.
So DC looking for the break now. They push their lead to 6 potentially. Be their largest lead again, and they just float that one, and Glazer tracks it down for Philly.
Looked like some miscommunication there on the offense. They had a play set up, and it just the pieces didn't come together. The cut was covered, and the throw was poor.
Maida gets it to Katzenbach, immediately dumps it back to Haranet. DC pushing Philly back a little bit here. Another dump cut and a bobble by Glazer.
I hate watching drops. It just makes me sad.
That's the same reaction I'm sure the whole Philly sideline had. Timeout called by DC here. With a chance for the break. We'll take a break here. DC on top, 15-10. Nice shot of the DC current huddle here as they get that O-line. You can kind of see Peter Pryle's headband there. Looks like
does that say Peter
Peter Dew? Peter Dew, question mark? I don't know what it's in reference to, but...
We're going to have to get a shot of the other side of his head at some point. I'm really curious about this. A lot of basketball players write messages to themselves and to the fans on their shoes, and maybe this is the new revolution for Ultimate, where we're writing messages on the headbands.
Yeah. And DC, they have the bigger headbands, those white ones, than the rest of the league likes to wear. I think Kolek started that trend, and it's just caught on.
I was just going to suggest that, and all you have to do is have sort of a uniform look to it, and they've all committed to it, and it's most of the guys with the extra hair, the longer hair, because it gives you that, it pops over the top a little bit like a freshly baked muffin, right?
that's one there. See, look at right there. Look at right there. Good shot of Kolek. 15-10 here is DC at the timeout.
What would Peter do?
What would
That's
Peter
my bet.
do?
That's fantastic.
Yep, that's what would Peter do? That's a question for any Ultimate player. If you're looking for a way to improve your game, you ask, what would Peter do?
I wonder if that's sort of a rallying cry for how you're supposed to play offense for the DC team. Or is it defense, too?
And he's played good defense, too. He had a nice big defensive block down on our right here as both sidelines do their substitutions, and DC looking for a break here, and With 1:02 left to go, they could push it to 6. And really just put maybe the nail in the coffin of Philadelphia here in week 2.
Taking advantage of drops is the way the game works, but it's never fun to watch.
Ong has Esser on him to start things off, and then we get some contact as he get a little too close for comfort.
Yeah, he's asking for that call instead of just playing, but it was absolutely a foul.
Quickly up to Kolek. Good bid defensively for Philadelphia. They couldn't get it, though, against Kolek, and him and Wodach quickly connects. Kolek has it right back and then dumps it back to Jeff.
Yeah. Peter's really open there. He just ran away. Like there were a bunch of players sort of in a vertical stack there, and he just ran away.
Looking for Kolek, and Alan Kolek trying to go for a greatest there. Can't get it back in bounds. At least that looked like he was trying to do.
Yeah, he ran out of space there as a subpar throw from Peter.
So Philly with an opportunity, though, with their D-line out there now, and they immediately give it right back as Esser had to go a little too low and couldn't come up with it.
It's a bad throw, and it's just a terrible attempt at a catch. Again, at this point, it's looking like the difference is going to be in the drops.
I think that's a strip. They're going to give it to Philly, though. Esser going deep against Ong, has it read down, and Esser reels it in, has to wait for his offense. Cranston, the only DC defender back, as Ong gets up and looking for Gabe Colton as Philly gets one back. Or Pat Deviney. Pat Deviney, my mistake.
Yeah, and there was a little turn back there as Colton got the block there to make a big difference and then just put it up himself. He's trying to take control of the game on his own from that handler spot. And that's something that you see a lot from teams with strong handler cores, is once they get a chance to make a block, they're almost displeased with the rest of their cutters, and they say, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to throw this goal right now.
This is a close call as we take a look at the replay. I thought maybe Kolek had this one.
Well,
very close.
From our position, it's tough to tell because if he had his hand, if the defender had his hand on the disc and Kolek is clap catching it, then that's a D.
And then Esser reeling it in over Ong, finds Deviney. Just had to wait for his offense to catch up, but Philly gets one back, even out of the timeout. DC trying to get their O-line in there, and they'll stay in right now.
And we're going to see Rainwater coming down here on D. We're going to see Katzenbach coming in on D. I'm betting Philadelphia has something a little different cooked up on the defensive line right now.
Trying to get the disc back and have some of their O-line guys out there.
8 seconds left. Katzenbach and Rainwater are just deep right now.
3, 2, 1.
And Katzenbach is the one who reels that one in to close out the third quarter here. 15-11. DC able to push it, or really just hold it. They led 11-7 at the half. It's 15-11. It's a 4-goal lead. DC is over Philly here at Cardinal Stadium.
Coming back from 4 points down in one.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Welcome back to a rainy Cardinals Stadium here at Catholic University. In the rain, you need Gamer Grip. Gamer Grip, stop your hands from sweating and increase your performance with Gamer Grip. This non-sticky solution allows you to make better throws and grab better catches without a hint of slippage, which Dusty might have had some slippage here in the rain. With an 11-15 score, Philadelphia trailing DC as we get ready to start the fourth. How much do you think the weather has been a factor here?
Well, as our interview earlier stated, the players are having a little bit of difficulty with it. We're seeing a lot more drops than we expect. We're seeing imperfect throws go up, and defenders able to make a difference. Going into this last quarter here, the matchups for Philadelphia on defense are not looking good. DC's offense is dictating the terms of engagement. Lloyd Blake is booking downfield against much smaller players. He's coming back underneath and still taking advantage of them there. The way that they've sort of dominated that offensive side is the tune of this game, that and the drops. The drops are just killing Philadelphia right now. They're giving away break chances, they're giving away easy goal chances, and you cannot do that if you're going to come down to DC and challenge them in their house.
The dojo, that's what they call it here at Cardinal Stadium if you're a DC Current or a fan of the DC Current, and they've been perfect here since coming here a season ago. And as you said earlier, they've been pretty much perfect down in DC.
Yeah, you got to defend the district from all comers. There's no other state like it. There's no other place to live that's quite like it.
So Philly with a tough task ahead of them. They were able to hold pace here in the third quarter. It was a 4-4 quarter, so we're at the same difference. It was 11-7 at halftime. It's 15-11 now, so each team with 4 goals in that last quarter. But Philly's got to find a way to come up with some breaks and get some quick scores as the clock is going to quickly become a factor.
Yeah, and the idea of coming back from a 4-point deficit in one quarter is going to be a big ask for Philadelphia's team.
Well, they'll start out with their O-line out there. There's Haranet. Quickly up to Glazer.
And DC isn't a man here, but they're in a little more aggressively poaching the lane man right now from the handlers, and they're fronting all of the Philadelphia downfield players, which leads to this dump turnover here.
So another chance for a break. Cranston will start things off. That's number 11, Neely.
And they've got open players on the far side, but Philly's defense is tight. Yeah, that's really good defense by Philadelphia. It put Neely in a high stall situation, and they had the defenders in place to make the play.
So he gets to stall. They actually have to bring it back to where that was as opposed to where Glazer caught it.
Yep.
So right in front of that 10-yard line. And Haranet will air this one out, looking for Rainwater downfield. Cranston coming in. Rainwater makes the catch, and he's got to wait for his offense. Sickles was the only guy.
Sickles is still open right now, actually.
Looking to match up against Delrico Johnson. And shake him off. Trying to get it back to Katzenbach. There's a good catch by Sickles, beating Johnson. Glazer floats one up, and he floats it too much. We do have a whistle.
Okay, well, again, that explains why that throw looked like that exactly. Yeah, so Philadelphia should be able to just punch it in here.
So Glazer will get it back. He's got Neely on him. Cut from Sickles. They shake him off, and instead they go to, I believe that's Ward.
Yeah, and that's the sort of situation where it doesn't even need to necessarily be a great cut. It just needs to be a little bit of open space for the thrower to put it into. The DCD came out really aggressive in that first possession there. All of their downfield players were underneath. All of the handler defenders were trying to play heads up. And this is a nice, big, aggressive put, too.
They got to be aggressive in this type of situation, playing down so much. Rainwater, a good read there.
Yeah, you can rely on him to make that catch.
And then Glazer, after the foul, finds Ward with the good cut. And they cut it back to 3. Let's see if they can get a break or two here and close the gap with 8:27 left to go in the game.
Yeah, they're going to need to start putting pressure on the DC team early on in these possessions. They can't give them any free throws to start if they're going to try to get back into this game.
Again, the winner of this one will then have sole possession of first place in the East, and it's big to get that early lead, especially with only a 10-game season. To sit at 2-0 to start is big help.
Ooh,
rare drop there for Pryal.
Perhaps it's contagious.
Davini heads down the other way. And Colton will start things off, swings it out to Bear.
Yeah, Lindsay's there open on the far side. There are open players here for Philadelphia. They just have to get it to them.
He's got Esser. Esser beats Ong. Esser sends one out. It's tipped. I think that's O'Connor who was trying to get it. Can't reel it in.
And it's just a drop again. He got his hand up early, but his mind was on Blake, who was trying to track him down. Looking for a disc to find here as that other disc rolled really far away across almost
Way
across
down
the
to
track.
Yeah. In lane 3.
I don't think he's going to beat anybody around, but
Pryle with the good layout. That time he does reel it in, finds Wodach.
and Ong made an excellent deep cut there. He was open.
Blake back in that handler role right now. He's working with Schaffner and Kolick.
There's no reason for DC to rush at any point during this quarter. All they need to do is maintain their advantage.
Kolick finds Wodach. Wodach downfield to Pryle.
It's a really nice completion downfield. He got 30, 35, 40 yards on that end cut. And the throw needed to be precise and get there quickly.
Up to Cantone. They find Pryle on that far side, and then Kolick.
Yeah.
Right at the front of the end zone.
Cole could get open in a phone booth, and as far as I can tell, there's a lot more space in the end zone than there is at a phone booth.
Phone booth appropriate. It's superhero night. Is Kolick Superman in that phone booth?
Sometimes he is. Sometimes the way he plays just makes it impossible for the opponent to do anything worthwhile on defense.
That's his third goal of the night. Had the first one of the game and scored another one in the second. He gets one here in the fourth. So
And a nice little conversation here, probably about that possible strip earlier, maybe a little bit of contact here near the end zone. You like to see players who are able to talk these sorts of things out outside of the run of play.
yeah, still a good example there. Spirit of the game with the guys kind of just having a little bit more faith in each other to play a clean game.
Yeah, and that's sort of the baseline understanding that you have going into any Ultimate game is that you're out there to play and you're not trying to intentionally violate the rules. You're just trying to play to win.
Castine's going to pull here for DC, looking to put this one away, up 16-12 with 6:55 left to go. Philadelphia, clock is not their friend anymore.
No, they're in a little more of a horizontal stack here, and DC is just looking for any little opportunity to get a block and then really end this game.
Ward, the third handler in that horizontal stack, finds Sickles again, who's handling on this point. Hairnet on the far side.
It's a good reset cut.
And then Rainwater dumps it right back to Hairnet. Nick going to air this one out, looking downfield for Glazer, and he's got him.
Score by the Philadelphia Spins.
Yeah, that'll count. And it was a good throw to get it down to that player who the defender was closing on him. But they're going to need more than that. They're going to need breaks.
Well, they scored fairly quick as we see this one fly through the air and right into Glazer's hand.
Yeah, the way that disc came down with the extra angle on it made it very difficult for the defense to make a play.
Nice shot, and Matt Glazer, all things considered, has had a pretty nice game tonight and a good start to the season in weeks 1 and 2. But his spinner's trailing here.
I just hope that it doesn't come down to those drops again.
Yeah.
I can't stop thinking about them because I can picture each one of them in my head as the disc is just sort of bobbling around there, and everyone in the booth up here is just hoping that the play continues, as opposed to seeing the disc just fall down to the ground.
The assist to number 7, Nick.
So 6:18 left on the clock. Dave Bear out there to pull. You can see the rain still steadily falling out there. Actually looks like it's picked up the last couple of minutes.
It's coming down a little heavier for sure.
Golick starting things off. What a good marks there from Colton. Nice catch by Schaffner to beat Bear to the mark. And he kind of holsters that one, sends it back to Golick.
Yeah. Again, there's just no rush at all for DC right now.
Wodach to Cantone. I think Cantone wanted Ong downfield and shakes him off. Instead goes to Pryle.
That was Ong making another good deep downfield cut.
Wodach will go to Cantone that time, and he keeps it in on the far sideline.
It looks like they're almost trying to mimic the Philadelphia
Pretty
offense
much.
there, where they just throw it down that far side.
Chuck Cantone, he's been a nice addition here for the Current.
On the score, number 84.
Good pressure on the mark, but Wodach's ability to extend and get that throw out past the pressure is what made that happen.
45, Jeff.
17-13.
His third assist.
You can see there's the rain right there in front of one of our lights. It's definitely picked up quite a bit since the start of this one.
And that doesn't really bode well for a comeback, because in a comeback you're going to rely on things like quick disc movement and getting the disc downfield after the turn, because time is definitely a factor right now. On the other hand, if DC starts making a couple more unforced errors, as we saw a drop earlier, that could make a big difference for Philadelphia's chances to get those break goals back.
Yeah, DC's not had very favorable weather conditions for their 2 home games. They had to deal with the wind vortex last week against Boston, and we saw how that affected that game. They were just drops all over the place, and now tonight having to play in the now heavy rain pour.
Well, that's sort of representative of the weather we've had down here in the area over the course of the spring so far.
Well, Philadelphia needing to move quick. They get it to Rainwater. Sickles making a big downfield cut. He doesn't get it to him. Katzenbach gets the dump.
DC is pressuring these resets tight, because as the Philadelphia players are coming from downfield into the backfield area, the DC defenders aren't conceding any of that ground.
Oh, and they'd love to even kill off as much clock as they can on defense.
Ooh.
Good layout bid from Ward.
It's not there. The execution on the throw there just made that catch impossible.
Did his best, but like you said, just couldn't come up with that one. There's Wiggins looking for a hammer. Doesn't go to it.
Yeah, the open players are on the far side of the field right now, and that's a tough throw with a little lack of grip.
Neely all over to that far side.
Yeah, he's wide open over there.
Freddie Sy. Back to Wiggins.
Wiggins did a good job of extending the way that he got upfield there. Instead of taking the disc early, he knew that the defender wasn't there.
DC with a nice cut there into the end zone. Another score for the Current.
That's pretty much going to seal it with that goal there to Nam. There's coming back from a 5-point deficit with under 5 points remaining, 5 minutes remaining is going to be almost impossible.
And in the conditions too, and just Philly not having much luck on some of these easy dump cuts as we see Nam once again. He knows it.
Yeah, the issue with the reset cuts is that the DCD can rely on their downfield players to force the disc to come wide. And right now, Philadelphia is just doesn't have the aggression and isn't creating enough open space and separation.
So 18-13, 4:39 left to go here in the game.
On the score, number 7, Ryan Bam.
Philadelphia still with both their timeouts. DC has used one of theirs.
Number 5,
But
David Princeton. His third assist.
it's going to be a tough task, as we were just saying, as leave Neely on the pull. Or first, actually. That's Dustin Damiano. We haven't seen a ton of him tonight, as Patrick DeVinny gets catch from him. McClellan.
And what's happening now is that the Philadelphia offense knows that they need to score quickly, and they're getting actually too many deep cuts at the same time.
Oh, big D that time from Egan. Right in front of the big put from McClellan. Esser looking for a D to answer right back and gets it.
Yeah, that's a good play by Esser, but the Egan's choice there was a little suboptimal.
So Philly gets it back.
A lot of open space there. Philadelphia, again, is just kind of standing around downfield right now. They're relying on their handlers a little bit to set it up, which works, but you still need more aggression downfield.
Colton gets it from McClellan.
If you watch these DC marks, that's a good catch there. If you watch these DC marks, you can see that they're pressuring not just the, I think he caught it.
I think he did too. I never saw it touch the ground.
Yeah.
Just held on to it, kept it on the body. Castine was right there. Way to play all the way through the catch too by Esser. Nice upline cut by McClellan. Lays out and grabs that one. Then floats one downfield looking for Esser. Esser leaping. And they're going to call, they called it a strip.
It looked like a strip from here. It looked like Esser got it
score.
at first. Yeah.
Good shake of the hands there. And Esser ends up profiting on that strip.
Yeah, and you can see he's put in a lot of effort there. The guys coming off the field for Philadelphia are looking pretty exhausted.
Now Philly still playing their hardest out there. Just
Oh, of course they are. That's been what their team has been like this whole time.
you see the put first to McClellan and the excellent layout as he beat his man, and then he just floated this one up between
Yeah.
Marshall and Esser. And
Yeah, Esser got to that disc first for sure. He was over top of the defender, and then the defense made contact with it and pulled it down.
there's Matt right in front of the camera.
Good, happy
Thumbs up.
smile. Like the haircut, too.
Got the mohawk rocking again. Still talking.
Well, they still believe. This team, Philadelphia, has never had any give up in their game at all. They're always trying hard to the end of the game, no matter what the score is.
DC not taking their foot off the gas with that regular line as we have one tick over 3 minutes left here in the game, and Kolick starting things off.
Wow, miscommunication there.
Yeah, Ong looking for Schaffner, and just way too short. Like you said, definitely some miscommunication.
It looked like Schaffner had his choice of directions to make an open cut in, and he just chose opposite of what the thrower chose.
O'Connor dumps it back, gets it right back. Far side, got his man to bite. They float one up and in for a score.
It's good effort there on the D, but the perfect throw eliminates the defense in every situation.
That's Pana. Normally a guy we hear a lot of for the Spinners over the years, and first time we've really called his name tonight.
Oh, he's really fast.
Just beats his man down. That's Kolick.
Yeah, all you need is that it's actually easier to beat your man on those first couple steps than it is to maintain that advantage as you go. And as you see, Kolick tried to make the follow-up bid there, but wasn't up to it.
Patrick Lindsay with the assist, and Kolick, I mean, we talk about his offense, but his defense, too, is usually spectacular. So if you're able to beat him on one, you take advantage of it. We'll take a break, step aside. 2:32 left to go. Philly trailing by 3, 18-15.
This thing is too...
One of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Welcome back to Cardinal Stadium, final 2:32 here at the Catholic University of America. As we look in at the Philadelphia huddle, just got one of the breaks that they need. They cut it to 3, 18-15. Michael Pana score, but we'll see, Dusty. It's 2:32 left to go. If you can get a few more breaks here, or if there's just not enough time.
Well, and they are going to be taking advantage of the midfield pull rule coming out of the break here. And one of the things that you see is that it's more of an opportunity for a comeback. You add comeback mechanics into the sort of the game theory of how this works, but they really need to get this disc into the end zone, and not just there, but they need to get it in the back of the end zone, not just in the front. Because their previous other pulls were, one was just not on the field, and the other one was an easy catch and field for the DC offense. If you compare this to the Whitecaps pulls last weekend, you saw, I believe it was Christian Foster just winding up and tearing a backhand blade into the back of the end zone. It reliably landed within 5 yards of the back.
Sometimes you thought maybe they might have even been too far, and he was able to just place it right there and roll out the back.
You can see that he either has that skill or he developed that skill just for this. Maybe he's a great disc golfer.
He could be.
He's just got he can put it on a spot. Maybe he's fixing a receiver.
It's possible right there at the back. So let's see. They get the roll, and it gets by Kolick and a handful of other DC O-linemen and out the back. So Philly gets what they need, and they get their defenders down there quick.
It was really poorly fielded there by the offense more than a good pull by the defense.
Nice cut by Wodach, and up ahead to Pryl to get that one out, and Pryl went low, and he might be shaken up a little bit as he's slow to get up.
Whether that affects this game specifically or not, that is that could be a potentially a big issue for DC going forward.
So, and Peter slowly getting up here. Let's see, look again. Coming over was Rainwater, and Jake didn't touch him at all. It just came down maybe a little awkwardly on his knees.
It looks like they might have caught feet there a little bit, but it wasn't any significant contact. And yeah, it does look like he came down pretty hard though.
Well, he's walking on his own, which is a good sign. Neely's going to check in for him. I'm sure that's the end of the night for Peter, but good to see him walk off under his own power, obviously.
And he's asking his teammates to do this whether he's out there or not. You like to see that, too.
Definitely a bit of a grimace, though, on his face as he heads off.
Attempts to explain to the trainer what happened on the field. That's always a difficult moment for an athlete where you have to put into words something that you just experienced.
What did Peter do? Right? So Prowl finishes the night with a couple of goals. It's definitely a factor in this one as Kolek runs down a disc.
And they set that play up just from the start there. They ran him straight up field, and not a single other Philadelphia defender was heads up enough to make a play on that.
Nice D right there.
That's an excellent D, though.
Lloyd Blake looking to put it into Schaffner, but Philly answers right back. That was Chow who made the stop. And Philly, it looked like Jake Raymer thought about maybe taking the timeout, but the sideline waves him off. Sickles will start things off.
Yeah, they're going to want to get that midfield pull after they score this. They need to use it that way.
Get it up to Casey, then finds Esser. This hybrid line right now of offensive and defensive guys as Rainwater out there as well.
Yeah, and you start to need to just put your best players out regardless of what they normally do.
This one's going to float. He was looking for Sickles. It was a little too much. And DC takes it back, Lloyd Blake.
Yeah, it looked like Cranston got a piece of that there, and that's the advantage you get of having him on the field at any time, whether he's playing offense or defense.
DC can take it under a minute here as we approach that 1 minute mark, 1:13 exactly. Floating this one out. There's a whistle. And it's a stall.
Yeah.
Good defense there by the Spinners.
Seems like that play just developed slowly.
So exactly 1 minute. Clock is running, though, here.
Not sure. Shouldn't the clock be stopping there if we're under a minute?
That's what I thought.
And now it's stopped during play. We're not sure what's going on there.
Chow gets it up to Lindsay. Esser with a couple of bobbles and reels it in.
It's good focus.
All over him. Then sends this one out deep, looking for his man in Divini.
Yeah, I'm really not sure what he saw there. I mean, yeah, you do have to get the disc into the end zone and score the goal, but throwing into triple coverage, it's got to be a perfect throw to beat that.
36 seconds left. Kolek starting it off. Finds Wodach. DC can pretty much just kill the clock here.
Not sure. We've got
a foul.
Yeah, okay.
Lindsay getting handsy with Wodach.
The DC at this point, even though we were saying earlier there's no rush, there's even less of a rush now. There's a good jump cut there by Schaffner.
Schaffner beats his man and just sends a big huck downfield for kind of the heck of it, looking for Cranston. Deed up nicely, though, by Sickles.
Yeah, double coverage again. But then again, now Philadelphia has to travel the whole field in order to get a chance at a goal here.
And with just 23 seconds left.
Schaffner did a really good job making that cut there. He got in behind his defender. The defender turned his head, and then he just jumped back for that undercut.
Philadelphia uses their final timeout. We'll step away here. We'll see if the Spinners can make some noise in the final 20 seconds. Welcome back to Cardinal Stadium. Final 20 seconds. DC on top of Philadelphia, 18-15. Spinners using their final timeout. See if they can pull off a miracle here, or at least this is good prep still for the rest of the season to still work this 20-second clock.
Not only good prep, but it's just a matter of committing to the game and believing that every point matters.
Right.
So you don't always get a chance to step out on the field and play. You don't always get an opportunity to play in an environment like this where you have two teams battling back and forth with a high skill level. You just want to give all you have to the game at those moments.
And you just see the rain here coming down at Cardinal Stadium. There's definitely been a factor here. A couple of drops, but mostly the mistakes have been mental.
It's what we were talking about earlier, where both teams were really kind of over-aggressive early in the game in terms of attacking after the turn, and as a result, their execution was just a little bit off.
Trey Katzenbach, the veteran leader here on the field for the Spinners, will line up to the left of Nick Haranet, who will pick it up.
Yeah, and DC's is sitting in a soft coverage here. It looks like a 1-2-4 kind of a zone.
Freddie Sy out marking the disc. Him and Wiggins. They get to Damiano, Haranet. And Nick's going to air this one out. He's got Esser downfield. Delrico Johnson doing what he does, knocking a big downfield huck away. And then DC's just going to put one up for the heck of it. Wiggins is down there. He actually makes a tip and gets a hand on it, and Damiano comes up with it. And that'll be our final score. DC wins it 18-15 and takes sole possession of first place at 2-0. We'll step away here. Again, final score 18-15. We'll come back with some highlights and recap this one here at Cardinal Stadium.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Welcome back to Cardinal Stadium. Your DC Current improved to 2-0 with an 18-15 win. We've got our player of the game, Lloyd Blake of the Current, standing down field side.
Hey, Lloyd, how you doing today?
Doing well. It's a little wet down here, but
Yeah,
I'm all right.
you guys seem to survive pretty well. Did you guys feel that the wind and the rain was much of an issue at all, or no?
No, I think we've all played in worse, so
Yeah?
it was just one of those things.
And how do you feel about coming out today and having such a strong performance in the absence of some of the other offensive players?
Yeah, we talked a lot about being really aggressive at practice, and so I just tried to come out and run hard, get upfield.
Yeah, you definitely did get upfield. At some point, you may have been covered by the shortest opponent that you've had at this point. We saw you throwing over the top there a little bit. Was that conscious on your part?
A little bit. They were giving me a hard time on the sideline.
Oh, we like to hear that.
Yeah.
What kind of success did you guys have on offense? Was there a specific plan in terms of you or different players getting in new positions?
Not so much. It was really just like I said, just be aggressive, try to get upfield. Everybody moving out of the handler spot, moving up. Just a little flexibility.
Yeah, and now you guys are at the top of the standings here in the Eastern Conference. It's a good way to start off the season. What are you looking forward to in the future here?
Yeah, I mean, it feels good right now, but we're not satisfied. We're going to keep working.
We always like to hear that. Try to get dry a little bit here in the end here, and you had a great game. We had at least 4 goals from you, maybe a couple assists as well. It was excellent. We loved watching it.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it.
Lloyd Blake, our player of the game, was an impressive night for him. Said at least 4 goals, had a couple assists. Let's take a look at some of our big highlight plays here. And there's Blake.
And that was a great give and go there. We talked about that earlier, the main contact between the two players.
Jeff Wodach finding Blake on one of his goals. So we've got at least a goal and an assist so far. Here we go again.
He's just racking them up here. Here's another assist.
Blake airing that one out. That was the great read by Wodach in that far corner. And it was an impressive night, and an impressive night for the DC Current, who take this one 18-15. They're perfect at 2-0. The Spinners fall to 1-1, but they stay in second place. Boston right behind them at 1-2 now, and the Rumble 0-1 to start the season. So Current picking up right where they left off from the 2014 season.
Which is kind of what you expect, and it's good to see that the Spinners are out here doing a little bit better job in terms of competing, in terms of offensive efficiency, in terms of putting pressure on teams from the defense, but their execution errors today are going to put them in second place.
Current having no problems, really. They led this one pretty much from beginning to end. They had a couple of the third quarter. They tied at 4-4, but they led 4-2 at the end of one. They took a 7-5 second quarter for an 11-7 lead. They maintained that 4-4 back and forth game in the third, and then just closed it down, despite being outscored actually in that fourth quarter, but ended up finishing up with the 18-15 win in a rainy night. I'm sure a night that they wanted to end as soon as they could in this rain. Nobody likes being out in the rain.
And one of the things that you get from the defensive side is that from the DC team is Nate Castine and Seth Wiggins were doing a very good job of both making plays as defenders, and then once they got the disc on the turn, those guys were doing a good job of distributing the disc and not being coverable by the Philadelphia Spinners. The Spinners here and there had some very good performances. There were some, Esser had some impressive plays, and Glazer was actually all over the place in small ways here and there. But it just didn't add up to enough. Their execution errors, I keep coming back to this, but there's no other way to put it. When you drop the disc, you can't win this game.
Right. So that's going to do it here for us. Philadelphia will be hosting the New York Rumble next week. That's a 6:30 start on May 2nd. DC will be off, as well as Boston. On behalf of Dusty Rhodes and the rest of our crew here with the MLU, I'm Jeff Poster. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.